So I read Dr. Henry Rust, who said these words: "The crisis of our age is that knowledge has advanced faster than wisdom." Think about that. We know, for example, the uses of nuclear fission. That's the ability to dissect nucleus. But we are surviving under the kind of threat that this knowledge gives us, because we are not quite clear as to the manner in which this energy should be used. Or could it be that we are now unwilling to learn how to use it? End of quote. During arms race, scientific communities in every part of the world was working hard to develop nuclear power, nuclear bombs, right? In fact, just last week, both North Korea and South Korea tasted their intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's pretty mouthful stuff. So the North Korea ICBM was able to travel, about 500 miles. So there are bombs targeted at us, and we are targeting at somebody else, right? And we are probably, if every one of us, or every country, use their own nuclear bombs, we will be less than a dust. I don't know what that is. That's what my mom used to say, because there are too many bombs out there that can just pulverize into dust, and yet we still make it, right? We have developed chemicals to get rid of weeds, bugs, so that our vegetables looks nice, so that we have great, very robust bumper crops. And I think in return, our health has been compromised. We are sicker now. We have more diseases. Can you believe? I didn't hear cancer until I came to this country. Because here in church, I was praying for somebody with cancer who died of cancer. I go, what is this? It's not that Naga people had no cancer, but we weren't dying like flies, And it's because people out there, we are not using all these sorts of farm chemicals to raise our rice and corns and beef and pork and whatnot, So in order to produce more, we use all kinds of things, hormones, and then we eat them. And then we say we are getting sick. Okay? So knowledge have advanced so much, And yet we are not looking at what are some of the repercussions for doing all of these. That's the wisdom part, right? Knowledge is about discovering and finding. Well, we had 4 civilian astronauts. They circled the world and They are back. Yeah, they're back. I wrote this sermon before they came down, but they are back. 4 civilians astronauts. Think about that. And down the road, if you have money, if you can afford it, even if I sell my house and cars, I still can't do it. But time is coming. Knowledge, right? But how is knowledge trickling down and turning those knowledge into wisdom? Think about that, right? We can all rationalize that. We say to ourselves, oh, I was stupid, How did I do that, right? Knowledge. And then out of those mistakes, we rise from the bottom, and then we have gained some wisdom, right? Yeah. In the tribal villages, if some folks are having some issues and some deep-seated concerns, and if mom or pop or uncles or aunt saw you struggling, they will say, go and talk to your grandpa. Grandpa sitting out there who is 90, something like you. They hash it out. They go sit there. Grandpa have no scientific knowledge, but they sit there and they talk. And this person comes out, not all his problem is resolved, but he comes out or she comes out wiser. Right? Wisdom. Knowledge that has not trickled down to become, to make you wise can cause you a problem. Knowledge, the immensity of knowledge, I think we should all have this big heads because we have so much knowledge, right? But has this knowledge making us wiser every day? And the answer is no, right? Look at the world we're in, How many wars are we going to fight before we become wise? Yeah. Climate issues. That's knowledge. Every country, global community is now struggling with climate issues. But the wise thing is, how are we going to resolve it? Are we in this together? That's what they're trying to sort out, right? Reverend Hickman is a Presbyterian pastor in Omaha. He wrote this beautiful thing, and I couldn't resist. I'm going to read to you. We live in a world where ambition is required. If you don't have ambition, you must be some kind of slacker. If money makes the world go around, ambition is the engine that turns it. In our world, climbing the ladder is a way of life. Now, some kinds of ambition are good. But the problem with most of our ambitions is that they are all about us. Right? About us. And when our ambitions are essentially selfish, we tend to develop an any means to the end. That approach. I can think we can agree that when selfish interest dominates our ambitions, our principles seems to go out the window. End of quote. I don't think anybody will disagree with that. It's a tough thing, you know. When it is just us and me and nobody else. I think the world struggles with that kind of mentality. And therefore, to me, is there anything we as people of God can learn? Is there some wisdom out there that we as Christians can model for the world? Well, that's a big subject. And so James, when he wrote this, he was already experiencing some kind of tendency among Christians and Christian community and people. This myopic, ideology, right? James was already hearing it. James was already experiencing it. And so James had to write this letter as a warning, as a warning that selfish ambitions are not good. That is what he emphasizes in this book. Ambitions are good. We all need to have ambition. But selfish ambitions can destroy you and others. Does it make sense? Yeah. So that's where James is. James wrote about this an earlier chapter, in case you forgot. Let me read some verses. Let's see. I lost it. Let's see. He was saying in chapter 2, this is what he says, because he was trying to not necessarily attack, but he was trying to speak to Christian laxity. Yeah. So this is what he wrote. What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or a sister who has no food or clothing, and you say goodbye and have a good day, stay warm and eat well. But then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What does it do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Now, someone may argue, some people have faith, others have good deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have good deeds? I will show you my faith by my good deeds. So you see, James already dealt with this thing. If you have faith, then don't sit on a couch. If you have faith and came to church, don't be a pew potatoes. You're not laughing. So he is saying this faith has to engage with the world. Right? Does it make sense? Faith has to engage with the world. Otherwise, James is saying, what's the point? Incidentally, Martin Luther, the reformer, was against James. Because For Martin Luther, the reformer, his theology, just shall live by faith alone. And so Martin Luther tried very hard to remove James from the New Testament. He even said, James is an epistle of straw. Yeah, check it out. He says, James, epistle of straw, it has no good. But I like it because faith has to work. So James is already speaking to Christians in the diaspora. You have to, don't let the world dominate you, but exercise your faith and live the faith. If you don't, how well others will know about what you believe or how you want to transform the world. See? So, I think Christians in the 21st century have tremendous power to influence and transform the world. More than any time in the Christian history. Because there are now 2.38 billion Christians in the world. Think about it. If only 2 billion people decided, from today on, I'm going to live my Christian life. Not just my knowledge, but I'm going to bring my knowledge to my heart and turn to wisdom and really live my life. This world will be transformed. Am I crazy thinking? If all 2.38 billion Christians around the world, and out of that, about 12 millions are Methodists, and just the United Methodists. And there are other Methodists. We can be very influential. Think about that. Can we, as Christians, bring different sets of topics to the table to discuss so that our lives are not in the state of insanity, but in the state of transformation? Does it make sense? So I think that is where this James is going. So we have numbers. So James is saying, whenever people are jealous or selfish, they cause trouble and do all sorts of cruel things. James chapter 3, verse 16. He's warning the first century Christians, which is not far-fetched for us either. He's in fact in a way, like prophetic. We have to do it. If we allow this laxity to enter deep within, we lose this powerful dynamics, our ability to engage with the world. I think early in the turn of the century, when Christian missionaries decided to go around the world, we were more dynamic, because it was mission that was driving church. Now church wants to drive the mission. People who went around the world and they died. They were martyred. But then, the righteous bloods cries up to the heavens, right? Exodus, right? And God answers. And then universities, hospitals, you name it, you go around the world, you see. And even non-Christians will say, that hospital there, they're Christians, they saved my life. You know, there has been some powerful witnesses through the history. Ask Filipinos. They'll tell you. You know, some of the big universities. I was just talking to Mary Johnson Nursing School in the Philippines. All the big politicians in the Philippines, they were all born in that hospital. Mary Johnson Hospital was so powerful. It's a Methodist hospital. Methodist nursing schools. Right? Are you nurses? No, but Mary Johnson Nursing School is so powerful. It has tremendous influence in the Philippines. This is a Filipino shirt. You know? So, anyway, I don't know how we can really understand the wisdom of God. Recently, a couple of things happened in the media. One was just 3 weeks ago, in Low County region of South Carolina, Alex Murdaugh, a successful lawyer, family business, right? His wife and son was killed, right? And then recently he hired somebody to kill him, right? So that his son will get the life insurance, $10 million. Now he's in jail. Think about that. That's Carolina. Well, let's take something from California. Tom Girardi. You all read that Girardi, right? Successful commercial, consumer lawyer in California. Girardi and Keys. He was worth $261 million with a reality wife, Hollywood, Beverly Hills wife, bankrupt, investigated. Is he in jail? Something like that. How can such a successful, educated, intellectual can do some stupid stuff and then lose everything, lose family? Great, right? Knowledge did not develop into wisdom. He stole clients' money. He even stole money from his own partners. See? If you allow some greed to come into our lives, such thing will happen. And so James says, if you are wise and understand God's way, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with humility that comes from wisdom. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield. Well, maybe that's the tough part for Americans. Willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. But false wisdom comes from jealousy, selfish ambition, traits that leads to believe that they are better than others and that they have nothing to learn from others. False wisdom is earthly, unspiritual, and devilish. That is what he says in verse 15. But true wisdom is pure, peaceable, gentle. False wisdom, he says, talks incessantly. Ooh. Bluffers on about faith. True wisdom listens, goes quietly about faithful acts. Something that we can all learn. We're human, that selfish qualities are there. But we don't let selfish qualities dominate our lives. There are some things in life you have to selfishly pursue. If you don't do it, nobody will do it for you. Yeah, that's what I told my kids. Your mom and dad can do something, but you have to take the bull by the horn and you have to do it. Otherwise, nobody will do it for you. Right? That's selfish ambitions. That will help you accomplish. But that is not the modus operandi for us to live in the world. How do we care for one another? Is the message from James. Amen.